Welcome to Over the Top Rope Live from the interwebs and interwebs. Here is your host for this Money in the Bank preview show, Spencer Love.
Hello, friends. Always happy to have you guys on here for the latest edition of Over the Top Rope Live. Of course, as Mike mentioned, as you can obviously see, given the fact we've actually got some production value, we're back to our regular platforms for OTTR. Lots of changes as far as this goes due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but one thing that is consistent is the Three Amigos, your Shield, your Evolution Reunion Edition, have returned. Myself,
We're three-man band!
A man who needs no introduction, of course, Chris Parrish, my regular co-host, joining me as always. And, of course, Mike the Ref joining us back in the producer's seat. Guys, great to have you guys here. Obviously, a bit of different circumstances as far as it goes for our regular editions of OTTR. Not even getting the opportunity to record it live, but great to get the opportunity to speak some wrestling with you guys again. Parrish, Mike, I'll turn to you guys for this one. Give myself the last word on this because I always have to take it. What are your overall thoughts heading into Money in the Bank, and what do you think of the pre-taped Money in the Bank matches? Parrish, I'll turn to you first.
Well, I think we can expect one of those cinematic parts for the Money in the Bank. I think anything that's pre-taped now, you can assume that because you do it once, you got to do it a million times, apparently. So I prefer if WWE didn't and kept that cinematic experience a little bit more prestigious and special. But, I mean, who knows? You know, Vince in new toys, right?
Yeah, but you know what, man? I think that as far as it goes, a Money in a Bank match filmed at the corporate towers are going to be so cool to watch, whether they are featured as one segment or, as the rumors have indicated, whether they are featured over multiple segments sort of interspersed between the matches themselves, which I think could be very cool as well. But we do know for a fact whether they are one segment, whether they are split up, whether they are cinematic or not.
Well, didn't they announce that both matches are happening at the same time, though?
Bingo, bango, my friend. Yep, they're taking place at the same time. So again, I don't know if it's going to be like a full-on cinematic style like we saw with the Boneyard match, like we saw with the Firefly Funhouse match, but definitely a lot of room for this. To be honest with you, I don't know what your thoughts, guys, are. And Mike, I'll turn to you first for this one because we gave Parrish the first word on this one. I kind of hope that they don't go sort of the route that they did with Gargano and Ciampa. Not that I disliked it, I just definitely think that of the cinematic matches they've done so far, it was a quite distant third. You know what I mean? Mike, your thoughts?
Well, sorry, production value is always great here sometimes. There I am. My thoughts are this is pretty much going to be an Indiana Jones movie coming up here. There's going to be traps all over the WWE headquarters there. There's going to be setups with wrestlers. Because how many wrestlers are not on this card? There's one thing that we talked about prior to the recording of this, and that's the fact that we only have 6 matches on the card and 8 matches total throughout the night. That's going to leave quite a few bodies that will be available to take part in little segments back and forth here. So it's going to be interesting in that sense.
Parrish.
Well, I hope we just see the people in the match be the only people in the match. I kind of hope that the building is just a ghost town and they're the only ones in the building. Kind of like what we saw, almost like what we saw with Orton and Edge, where you kind of just saw them in the Performance Center. Yes, you saw a couple of the peeping Toms there, but I kind of just want to keep the focus on the action, and I think that's the best way of doing it, because I think the more sidetracks you have, the less you're going to care about what's going on. So, I don't know. When I went back and said I don't know if I want this to be a cinematic thing, I remember listening to Undertaker say you got to have the right guys in, and I just don't know if you have all the right people for cinematic. But I mean, this remains to be seen, and this is also an opportunity for people to maybe just my opinion wrong too. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. But I mean, I think when you said Ciampa and Gargano, it's because we both wanted to see them have one of the best wrestling matches or fights possible, and they're capable of that. here I think you're going to see a spectacle, especially when you're seeing people go from the bottom of the building up to the top, onto the roof, and then you got to climb. So it's going to be very curious on that. I want to know if we're going to see the old school ladder that Big Show had, that reinforced double-sided one for Otis, since on SmackDown he was too big to climb up the rungs. So that's my first prediction of the night.
Well,
Okay, fair enough.
Well, they are at the
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
They are at the WWE warehouse as well in there, so they could have it in spare. So
maybe Daniel
Fair
Bryan
enough.
will go for the fist because he said it's all about fisting.
Man, I'm kind of the opposite on you with that one, Parrish. Now, before we start to actually get into our breaking down of the card, all that sort of stuff, I just do want to get Parrish. Like, I almost disagree with you a little on the sense that I want like a full-on empty, not performance center, Titan Towers or Stanford Towers, whatever they're being called now. I really enjoy when they have those sort of little. I don't want to say Easter eggs, but for me, it does add to the realism of the match, and it does add to the realism of a show as a whole. That, you know, you're in a corporate tower, and despite the fact that everywhere is pretty well a ghost town anyways, because of, we mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic, there's obviously still people there. I think it does add a little bit, you know. It's like any seasoning. You can't have too much of it or it does become overwhelming. I completely agree with you there. I think it'd be dumb if you saw like a board meeting get let out during the middle of the match, for example. But if there are two people who, like, you have to push out of the way on your way upstairs or whatever it may be, say like a Pat Patterson, just for lack of a better name, because I have no idea who the hell still works for WWE anymore. But if you get that sort of stuff and you get that added element, especially given the fact that you can do it correctly in this cinematic element, I think stuff like that's cool as shit.
Well, there's a couple things I would like to see, like like maybe a random TV that's on there, like on the wall, instead of them being used. Maybe you see that hacker thing come up once or twice, and then like stuff like that. Like I wouldn't mind like your occasional Easter eggs, but keep it in this. Just keep it in the realm of what we're seeing on TV. I don't want to see like a 90-year-old man like just for no reason. Like I don't want to have that point when you're having a backyard fight on the video game and you're going to see Renee Young interview someone. By the time you get them, they just run off. Like I just don't want to see that. Like I'd rather just watch the action. So if you're gonna give it to me. If you're going to give me those Easter eggs, at least have them, be in continuity with what I'm seeing on TV.
100%, man. Now, you mentioned the hacker. I do believe, and Mike, you'll have to fact check me in a second here, that the hacker is going to be revealed on Sunday during the pay-per-view. But before we get to that, obviously, we want to give a shout-out to Beardcade YEG, the home of Edmonton Professional Wrestling. Obviously, we mention it on the podcast as often as we can on the WCSN. That circumstances have changed, unable to do this show in our traditional environment as we love to do, but we are very passionate here at the WCSN about supporting local. I know that a lot of individuals here are too, because you're paying attention to us for the most part for the Albertan indie wrestling scene. But let's make sure that once this pandemic's cleared up, everybody gets comfortable, obviously, with their social distancing as they see fit. Let's make sure we support local as much as humanly possible. Head down to 105th Street and 82nd Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta, Beercade YEG. Not only do you get each and every WWE pay-per-view, but normally you get the three of us hosting the show with some members of the indie wrestling community here in Alberta. But Mike, let's get back to it. You were going to fact check me on the hacker. Is he scheduled or announced? I know plans can change, but he's announced to be revealed on Sunday, correct?
Is it just one person, by the way?
Hold on.
Like, do we know that?
Let me get through the
Let's get into that in a sec. Mike, you go first.
Let's go with the facts here first. There's nothing that's been produced that's actually said he's going to be here, or she, or they, or whatever.
Okay.
What had happened, and this was, let's put it this way, WWE didn't really deny too much about this, and they were starting to go with it. When the hacker punches in his code for accessing the computers, it comes out as 100520, which is the date for Money in the Bank. Which, based on what they have to go with right now, there is quite a possibility that, especially when you're dealing with a lot of CCTV footage like we're going to get with this Money in the Bank ladder match, it might make sense that the hacker would show up here. Now, Parrish, you were bringing up a great point here about whether it would be one person, many people, or who the hacker could be.
I honestly think it's going to be a new group. I actually think it's going to be a faction. Secretly, I hope to God it's the Undisputed Era on the main roster. I'd love to see that. I know it's not, but I'm curious to see if it's going to be new talent, if it's repackaged talent, or if it's a repackaged individual, or something along that line. This reminds me of a lot of the Solomon Crow and what he was starting to do in NXT back then. But I don't know, it also reminds me a little too much of what AEW is doing, but at the same time, you know what? This is the new war we have with wrestling. Somebody's going to play copycat with another and kind of take the idea, spin it their way. That's what I love about the war.
Like in a Dark Order sense, Parrish?
I get that vibe when I see it. I'm not going to lie. Like, especially when I'm seeing that mysterious voice and you're not seeing the face. Yeah, it's the same. It's not the same ingredients, but it's the same, like, recipe in the same way.
I get what you're saying, but I would have to disagree with you there, man. I just think that it's
same idea, different ideas involved.
Yeah, like, and maybe I may have to go back and play some Monday Morning Quarterback if it does turn out to be like a faction or something along those lines. I do agree that they've done a great job of setting this up. I think that any wrestling that I enjoy comes with some sense of intrigue. I know that that's a really obvious statement to say, but like anything comes with what's going to happen next, you know what I mean? And I think that they've done an excellent job of that, you know, whether it be, you know, this debate we're even having as far as could it be one person, could it be multiple, you know, people have gone through and like analyzed the voices and it's come out to sound like Xavier Wood of all people. Again, I don't think that Woods is going to be him, but I think that you could see it be a combination of people, you know, people have talked about Ali, people have talked about Shorty Gable. Or Shorty G, whatever the hell they're calling her now. People are, and they've tried to push that with CM Punk, the last video, and I can't remember who sent this tweet out, but just scrolling along the timeline.
I have everyone's attention now. That's the one where he brought the microphone, the first Raw he did after his famous Vegas incident. So
exactly. So you've got that, like the last video that the individual or individuals did. Somebody on Twitter, I was scrolling by and they paused it when they went to like press the button or whatever, and it looked like they had like longer female looking nails. So again, it's really up in the air for me. I really don't know. Even on the female side, that's really the first time I've started to speculate on who it could be, who it could be a combination of. But I think it'd be really cool if it was Ali. I think that if you're going to single it down to one person, he would be my pick just based on the graphics that they've sort of used. You know, every so often you see the circle flash that he has on his gloves. He's sort of been known for not Technicolor, but sort of the Mike, help me out here. You know the word I'm thinking of.
Futuristic look.
He's got
it's like a Tron style look.
Yeah, and I think that they've used a lot of that throughout sort of the graphics of this. I think that Shorty G would be a cool choice for it just because it's a really unexpected route as far as he goes. But a terrific pro wrestler, both inside and outside of the ring, whether it's promos, whether it's the sort of proverbial X factor. I think he's got it all. On the female side, if it was to be a female or there was to be a female involved, I'd love to see it be like an outer ring character. Like, let's get real here. Paige hasn't really done a ton. They've really advertised her on the SmackDown side, but nothing's come of it. What if it was her sort of in a managerial role for those two individuals?
What about something like that'd be cool. Moon?
See, Ember Moon would be cool. And that's, again, like, I'm really only kickstarting the speculation for myself on that. It's something that I'm really interested to see. Whether or not we get a reveal, I think there will be a major development as far as that goes, and I am psyched to see what it possibly could be.
Yeah, I think the idea that we finally have something where there's no spoilers about it, which I thought they did a very good job with WrestleMania with all that stuff. The fact there's no spoilers, the fact that we're still like watching to see what's next, I think we're finally bringing that back to wrestling in this era, which is really good. Mike, you're telling us to wrap it up, but I don't wear condoms. But anyway, what do you have?
Hey,
what?
It's good advice.
Well,
good advice. Wear prophylactics unless you're trying for children.
My personal opinion right now, guys, we don't know. We don't really even know if this hacker's going to show up now. And we got 8 great matches on this card that we should be discussing. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just get right to it here?
Hey,
Sounds good.
Just making one point, Spencer. You love Edge, but you hate it when I get rated R. What the hell?
hey, there are children who watch this show occasionally, despite the fact that we do usually air it from a bar. Parrish, I'm going to let you take the pick'em on this one. You just start the conversation wherever you want. We've got Jeff Hardy facing off with Cesaro, and then MVP will be facing off with R-Truth. You take the call, and you start on which one you would like.
Yeah, and I remember telling you how random the Truth MVP match is, but then when I watched SmackDown, I'm like, you know what? The Cesaro Hardy one is pretty random too. Because or did you say Cesaro or did you say Sheamus?
Cesaro, and I will contradict there. I don't know how they'll play it off, but I am 100% certain that they will play off the fact that Cesaro's doing it because of the former alliance with the Bar or something along those lines.
Well, and that's exactly it. I'll start with the Cesaro Hardy match because for whatever reason I expect them to open up with a really good match, and I think Cesaro Hardy will be the better match between the two. I have Jeff Hardy getting the win here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing Sheamus interfere, help Cesaro win. I just don't think we're going to get that on a kickoff match. Jeff Hardy looked incredibly strong on SmackDown. Like, not only did Sheamus bring the fight to him, he kicked the living piss out of him.
Oh, I agree.
So I think we're going to see that ball continue to roll. So I'm going to go with, even though I underlined Cesaro here, I'm changing my mind. I'm doing the audible. Jeff Hardy with the win, but I have a feeling that's only going to happen because him and Sheamus is going to be something coming up. I just think Sheamus is going to be involved in that match. There's too much history for him not to.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because admittedly I was in and out of SmackDown last night when it aired. Was Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus an official match, or was that just like a
it was a Jeff Hardy promo, like Sheamus sort of came and interrupted, and then, because I believe it was an interview with Renee Young. I actually caught on the last bit of it. So, and then Sheamus interrupted, brought the fight, except he got his arse kicked.
Fair enough, man. Then, to be quite honest with you, if that was not an official match or anything of that sort, I'm calling Cesaro via interference. Same reason. I don't think that they're going to continue that feud starting off the back of a Jeff Hardy win, because really, Jeff Hardy, and I'm sort of certain that it'll come up as well, but he really doesn't have a ton to prove as far as WWE goes. He's won the heavyweight championship. He's wrestled at WrestleMania multiple times against big name opponents. There's really nothing to prove. I think that he doesn't need to prove himself against Sheamus. I think that's an odd reason for that to be a way for that feud to start. If we're pulling the curtain back a little bit, I think that it makes a lot more sense for that feud to start because Sheamus screwed Jeff Hardy. So I think because of that,
the whole idea of the feud is that Sheamus is trying to take away what he feels are the weak links in SmackDown, and he looks at Jeff Hardy as being one of the weak links because he's an old man. He doesn't have it anymore. And that's kind of the whole essence of that story.
Yeah, and I stand by what I said as far as that goes, is if Sheamus is looking to take out the weak links in SmackDown, then what better way to try and do that with a loss as far as it goes for Jeff Hardy. So, yeah, I think that we're all pretty aligned as far as the fact that, Mike, I know you haven't given your piece yet, but I think I speak for you on this one, that I think that Sheamus will get involved by hook or by crook. I just think we differ on the results with that one. I'm going to go with Cesaro.
Well, normally,
we all know my record for kickoff matches. I'm terrible.
Normally I don't get picks, but Spencer, you make perfect sense here. There's no sense in having Hardy win this and just end it right there unless Sheamus comes out and immediately squashes Hardy after the match. That is a possibility, Parrish, so I'll give you that scenario, but in my opinion, there's just no sense in having Jeff Hardy lose this match or win this matchup right now.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it in the sense of this match really means nothing in terms of storylines. A loss doesn't really affect what Cesaro's doing. A win just makes people care more about the Jeff Hardy Sheamus thing, and that's usually how WWE goes. Plus, we all know they don't like pushing Cesaro, so...
Fair enough.
That's fair, but you know what? I think by the same token, if you think that a loss right now doesn't affect Cesaro, a loss doesn't affect Jeff Hardy all that often by the way.
Oh no,
unless it is
it's
some sort of
hypocritical
major
thinking. Don't get me wrong. I'm just thinking I've watched WWE too long, and that's usually how they go.
Fair enough. Now, obviously, this isn't a live show today, but leave your thoughts in the comments. I know that I speak for everyone here when we say we will be joining you in there. Feel free to leave your thoughts, leave your comments, leave what you think about the show. If you don't like what you see, tell us. We can't correct any of it until the next show anyways, so...
Well, first, Spence, I noticed that this is one of those few interviews where you're not wearing something certain that you never won.
Now, you see, Parrish...
Because you never beat anyone for it. Therefore, you never won it. Now, hypothetically, you are co-champion with me.
Yeah, so I've never claimed you weren't the champion.
No, I just want to know why it's not mailed to me. But that's okay, because...
Well, why... postage is expensive. I'm not shipping this. This will have to go Canada Post.
That's okay.
That's at least $4.95. And if we start mailing this thing back and forth over the next little bit, we don't know how long we're going to be indoors. This thing weighs, well, we're looking at about 30 pounds of gold right here.
Spencer, I know how frugal you are. We know that you drink Pilsner. So because of that, I came prepared. Yeah, see? I even promoted Pilsner, so I'm not a bad guy. But what I am is a prepared guy, because what I did is I came back with a title that I know I actually won.
Hey!
Yeah.
I remember
we
that.
haven't seen this bad boy in a while. But, you know, I just want to know. Not only did I win it, I've never lost it. But, yeah, no, I did that for the pop, so...
Outstanding, outstanding. Yeah, Mike, you're gonna step in.
All right, I just think, you know what? You guys want to keep talking about these titles and earning these championships? Well, let's work on dealing with that. Spencer, I believe you're up on the next matchup here, and you get a doozy. MVP versus R-Truth.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
I say this with absolutely no irony, no nothing. I'm psyched for this. I'm genuinely excited for this one, and yeah, it may be random. I know that they have done a couple of little interruptions and stuff like that. Like, it's not much more than a lower card feud if we can really be honest with each other, but let's not forget how talented these two guys really are. And MVP, I know that he's only wrestled a couple of matches. I know that he doesn't exactly have a stellar record as far as it goes since returning to the WWE, but I think that he's been a very cool part of WWE, whether it's the fact that, you know, I love a managerial role. I don't love like a management figure. You know what I mean? I don't like there to be someone in authority, but I love the idea of more people having agents or representatives or anything along those lines. And if there's someone who can step in the ring every so often and be very, very good at it, all the power to him. So I think that this is a perfect role for someone like Montel Vontavious Porter to be taken on right now and going up against a guy like R-Truth, who, like, let's get real here, guys. Whether you guys think he's a good professional wrestler
the most underutilized, underrated pro wrestler in WWE.
I 100% agree with you, Parrish. I think that, like, let's get real here. He may not be a heavyweight champion in WWE then, now, or forever, but he is someone that every time he is on television, I'm entertained. Like, let's get real here. When was the last time he was on, whether it's for a promo, part of the 24/7 championship? Like, when he has the thing, he's incredible with it. When he's going up against Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman before the Royal Rumble, he's incredibly entertaining to the point that he's bringing Brock Lesnar to genuine laughter in a pro wrestling ring. And I think that that is something that is so, so appreciated.
Which was a bet backstage, by the way.
That's outstanding. Outstanding.
And Brock Lesnar has actually flat out gone out and said he wants to work with R-Truth because he enjoys it. What does that say about a guy like that?
Exactly. So as far as this match goes, do I expect it to be Okada versus Omega or whatever other 5 or 6 or 7 star match you choose to reference as your top match of all time?
Yeah,
I think realistically, all of us can say no. I don't expect this to be any like 5-star classic by any means, but I'll be damned if I say I'm not looking forward to it. I'll be damned if I say I don't think that it's going to be entertaining as all hell. For this one, I think that we see MVP pull out a win because he does see himself associating with other individuals. He's working with, I forget his last name. It's Shane Thorne
and Brandon Vink?
That's what I was going to say.
Brendan Vink.
Thank you very much. So Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink. Anybody in this sort of situation, to be quite honest with you guys, is a spoiler for the upcoming pay-per-views and upcoming over-the-top rope lives. Anytime that there's a heel who's got a numbers advantage on a kickoff match, realistically, I'm going to pick them 9.5 times out of 10 just for the fact that you can use it to continue a storyline when there really isn't one going the other way. So I'm calling MVP on this one.
Yeah, I actually do believe that theory of like MVP winning because he has his quote-unquote cronies behind his side. However, I'm actually at the belief that if those cronies don't come to ringside with him, he will not win, and if they do, they will. I think that's a very telling thing. Yeah. I have Truth winning this match simply because if his cronies get involved, I'll see Cedric and Ricochet.
Okay, and that's a very fair point. Setting up the highly anticipated six-man match at SummerSlam eventually.
And that's the thing, because I think this is going to then lead up to Apollo Crews turning heel, joining MVP, and that stable moving forward.
I love it. That's a great call. Because I do think that you're right on the money there as far as Apollo Crews turning heel, but that is for a later edition. Mike, let's get your opinion in here, my friend.
Well, simply put, I think this will be the first. I think this will be the first match of the two. I think this one would be more likely. I
think we'll see that like the cronies get involved on a Raw, like exactly what you're saying. We'll see two matches here.
I think this is going to be a good Raw match. MVP's going to put Truth over. It's going to be straightforward and simple that way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just get the crowd.
Well, you got to get
like you, Mike.
Give the rub to the younger talent, right?
They're both old.
This could potentially be
I think
like
MVP is the younger talent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't MVP the younger talent?
Oh, you gotta love professional wrestling. It's like how they tried to bring up, who was it a couple of years ago, that they're trying to play he's a rookie. Finn Balor. When they're like, yeah, he's a rookie, he doesn't have the experience when he's like 36, he's a multi-time champ, like...
Well,
you gotta love the revisionist history.
He was 34, but he spent like 15 years in WWE. And then Sheamus comes and he's a year older, and he's like, to Sheamus, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing, kid?" And he's like, He's a year older, but like in the wrestling world, he's not. So.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Let's get moving on to the main card here, Mike. I'll leave this choice up to you. I do think that's. All agree that we'll leave the Money in the Bank matches until last. But other than that, Mike, it's a pick 'em. You take it, my friend.
All right. Well, you know what? Let me get the screen for everybody here. Let's go with the Smackdown Tag Team Championship. This is going to be one of those humdinger matches here where you're going to have a ton of action. Where you got the Lucha Dragons versus the Forgotten Sons versus Miz and Morrison versus the New Day, all vying for the Tag Team Championship. I believe, Mr. Parrish, you get the floor here first because it's your pick.
I thought it was yours, but I digress.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I knew that was going to get a pop. I have New Day retaining the titles here. However, that's because I'm playing for a title. If there was no title and I got to, let my balls hang out with these predictions, I would say if you want to shake up this tag division, Forgotten Sons should win this match. 100% walk out with the titles because they're the ones who are willing. They have the most to gain out of this, and it helps the future of the tag division the most. However, I think New Day is going to retain this, and I think they're going to retain over Lucha House Party because I don't think anybody thinks Lucha House Party will have a shot here, and they want to keep Miz and Morrison strong, and I think Forgotten Sons is that new team that you don't want to put the L on yet, so you want to make that L mean something, so I think New Day on Lucha House Party. New Day retaining the SmackDown tag titles.
Okay, Spencer?
You know, Parrish, because I'm playing for a belt, I am going to be calling the Forgotten Sons as your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions walking out of the evening. I think that, like you said, man, not a lot of people are expecting the Lucha Dragons or Lucha House Party or whatever you're calling them now to win the tag team titles here. And I think that when you've got a team that, and it's no discredit to their talent, like, let's get real here, man. They were the highlight for me of the Elimination Chamber match in February, but, like, nobody expects them to win. And I think when you've got a team like this, like, unless WWE decides to go full psycho on us and put the titles on the Lucha House Party, I think that when you've got a team that's in there that is so clearly there to take a pin, like you had Kane in the Royal Rumble last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was, you've got the opportunity to, like you say, shake up the tag team division or whatever division it may be. And I think that, again, like you say, Parrish, you make a lot of my points for me. You want to make their first loss mean something. So even despite the fact that, yeah, they may not get a pinfall victory, whatever it may be, sorry, take the pinfall loss. I was rethinking myself there. Them not winning is still an indictment this early in their career, at least for me. So I think that if you were to have them win the tag team championships, again, you keep the New Day looking strong, you keep Miz and Morrison looking strong, I think that it's a no-brainer for me that you establish a new talent because, again, like you say, maybe it is just the fact that they want to establish the tag teams a little bit more, but I also think that maybe you're going to look to give a little bit of an FU to the Revolt right now and be like, you think we can establish new teams in tag team wrestling? Here you go.
Yeah!
Well, and I think it's really petty. I don't think that that's my opinion at all. I think the WWE for years should have done a better job of building their tag team division, but I definitely think that they could
let two of the best tag teams in this world go.
Well, and I don't want to use rude words like petty or vindictive or stuff like that, but I do think that if there's an opportunity to make a little bit extra or make a little bit more of a pop or get a little bit more of a pop for
how they handled Shawn Michaels the night after Survivor Series 97 is the most petty thing I've ever seen.
See, and they use stuff like that to their advantage. I think that's the best way to put it, is if they think that somebody's slighting them, whether it's valid or not, they're going to use that as something to be like, well, and proverbially snub them. So I think that if they really wanted to make an opportunity here that I can see them personally seeing as advantageous and that we as fans all can see as advantageous, they'll take it. So I'm calling the Forgotten Sons.
I'm going to make one more
tag team champs.
I'm going to make one more prediction. And this is comparable to the Luke Harper. I think we see the return of Xavier Woods.
I'd love to see it. I really would.
Because 3-on-3 with the Suns moving forward, I think is the direction they will go.
I agree, but I think that that's a lot more interesting if they use Woods to win the tag team titles. You know what I mean? And not in a heelish manner. I think that Woods coming back to eliminate, and I feel terrible, but I can't even remember the names of any of the Forgotten Sons, which shows you how much I've enjoyed a lot of their previous work, just to be...
Jackson Riker, Cutler, and Wesley Blake.
Jay Cutler?
I think it's John Cutler, isn't it?
Wow. No, I was hoping it was Jay. But either way.
Cutler, Blake, and Riker.
No, I just think that they could use this opportunity to at least establish a tag team for the time being. I do see the New Day getting it back eventually. Parrish, exactly like you said, I do see this leading eventually to the return of Xavier Woods, but I think they use that at a later pay-per-view for the New Day to reclaim the tag team championships, potentially at SummerSlam if we're still looking to have that in August, whether there's fans or not. So there's my call. Mike.
Well, with all due respect to Brendan Cutler, let's move on to the women's SmackDown tag team, sorry.
It was not Brendan.
I'm pretty sure it was Brendan.
Brandon? Maybe?
Sure. Let's move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship with Bayley defending against Tamina. Now, this one, I almost feel like they're trying to force feed Tamina into this situation. A lot of it's been built up on...
Steve Cutler.
There you go.
We're all wrong.
I forget.
Steve the Pirate.
Damn you, Scuba Steve!
Thanks for fact-checking, Parrish. Now, I believe, Spencer, this is your pick for this one. Do you see Tamina having any chance of winning this match?
if WWE had any courage.
Touche.
Yeah, no, I think that Tamina, well, let's get real here. You know what, whether she's being force-fed or not, I think that it would be, again, in the interest of shaking it up, why not? Let's get real here. I think the WWE is going towards a Sasha Bayley feud, as they should. It's a feud that I think is something that supersedes the title if they build it correctly, and I think that WWE needs to take advantage of that more, you know? You see a few years ago where they take the championship off of Kevin Owens to make the Goldberg-Brock Lesnar blow-off match at Mania bigger, when really, it didn't need it, because it was a well-built feud, but I don't think they're going to do that here. I think it's a lot of the same situation where Sasha and Bayley, if you use their prior history, WWE, and we all know they can, writes this properly and portrays this feud as we all feel that it should be, I think that they've got a feud that does supersede a championship, but I think that they're going to make this one bigger than life thing, as they tend to do so often, and you know, it doesn't turn out really all the time, don't get me wrong. I just think that it'd be really cool to see someone else on top of the SmackDown tag team title scene, whether it's Tamina, whether it's a next challenger, whoever it may be, but I just think that Sasha Bayley is such a cool feud, whether it's involving the championship or not, and therefore I think that they should hopefully make it around something outside of the championship. I don't know. I understand the logic around make a feud as big as possible and make Sasha Bayley for the championship at SummerSlam, but I don't know. I think there's something just beautiful about a blood feud. You know, you even look at Edge and Randy Orton and just using prior history and using their previous battles together.
Triple H, prime example.
Yeah, man. I think that you can use stuff like that to your advantage rather than having to make it about the title every single time.
Ciampa Gargano.
Well, yeah, and then even whether it works or not, don't get me wrong, like, is Tamina as a 2-year-long WWE SmackDown Women's Champion my ideal world? No, but I think that if you don't take a shot, and I know Tamina's been around for a while, but if you don't take a shot to establish someone new or establish someone that may have been there a long time but hasn't been established yet, I think that all that does is open doors for more success for your promotion. So, you know, I say it jokingly. I think that genuinely, if WWE had any courage, you could really utilize this opportunity. My short answer, nah, Bayley retains. Bayley retains.
Thank you.
Sorry to eliminate the voice crack.
Parrish, your thoughts?
This just in: Spencer Love has become a man. Oh, no.
No, I'm on the road to becoming a man. Okay, I think you guys can hear it too. Like, I've been stuffed up for the last couple of days. I'm coming over it, but say la vie.
Parrish, your
We'll
pick.
get through it.
Nothing would actually please me more, because I think the idea of Sasha costing Bayley the title is such a great story. And the irony that if she was to cost Bayley the title only for somebody like Shayna to pick up the pieces and win would be so good to me. Billy and Chuck reference. However, I just don't believe that they're going to do something like that. So I believe Sasha is going to help Bayley retain, and we're going to see this match come closer to SummerSlam. So I think we're going to see maybe the next pay-per-view something to come in, but I think today we're going to see Sasha and Bayley kind of stay strong over Tamina, because I don't think Tamina's the person you want that title to go to next. So I believe Sasha's going to help Bayley retain the title, but we're going to get more of a certainty that something is going to happen with Sasha and Bayley, because I just don't believe Tamina is going to be the one to be champion. She's not the Nia when she won a Mania. Like, to me, like, that's how I view this. And even then, that Nia run was not entertaining at all. And I think they look this is the same way.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to get into
Dana Brooke, and I think we all know my opinions on Dana Brooke.
No, you know what? Let's back it up here for a sec. Number one, I enjoy Dana Brooke. I'm just going to leave it at that. I enjoy Dana Brooke. Number two.
Me too.
As far as Nia goes, I think a lot of that was the circumstance around having to have Ronda Rousey, who, again, I think is a little underrated as far as the actual talent aspect goes for someone who's new, but at the time was someone who was new, was someone who was developing as a professional wrestler. Not exactly, for me, the most successful way to enter the WWE after such a successful debut at WrestleMania, but I digress. I think that for me, it was really, really odd that Sasha wasn't entered in the Money in the Bank match, even just to add that little bit of extra curiosity to it going into it. Realistically, I do think that Sasha Banks is going to be the next SmackDown Women's Champion. And I think that at some point, it's going to be because of Bayley not turning heel, but like, Sasha will turn face somehow. You know what I mean? I think that they're going to really, really try and reverse the roles in this situation. I think that that's the perfect way to go with it. So how they get there, I really don't know, to be quite honest with you, especially with the way that they've sort of set it up over the last little bit, is for Sasha to turn on Bayley eventually. But I just think that, you know, it would be really cool to see them run back sort of a similar feud, see Sasha going in as the heel, which is a role I know that she's great at, and I know that I speak for both of you guys on that too, but I think that Bayley's really come into her own as a heel, and I think that if they are to go this long developing her as a Rudy, then they should really, really continue to build on that. And I think that people love Sasha Banks, whether she's a heel now, whether she's a heel 6 months from now. Eventually, people are going to be cheering her regardless. So if you try and delay that, yeah, you might delay it, but I don't think you're going to put that off forever. So I think by trying Bayley out in that role, you add a new dynamic to it. I'm just speculating at this point. I know that's getting into a few months down the road, but I see Bayley retaining. I really do. I see Sasha eventually becoming the SmackDown Women's Champion. I really do. How do you get there at this point?
Well, as I see,
at least given my circumstances. Sorry.
As I see Parrish finishing up his drink, let's take this to a commercial break. What
do you mean? I'm full.
Well, we'll get him a chance to get rid of his dirty glass. You know, we want to make sure COVID's taken care of properly here. We'll be back in about 3 minutes with the second half of Over the Top Rope live with Money in the Bank.
Live?
There you go.
We're all live.
We'll be right back on the Win Column Sports Network and Backbreaker Media.
Alberta is blessed with a wide variety of high-quality sports. Rich with talented athletes and successful franchises in all levels in any sport. We aim to tell those stories. The Win Column Sports Network was created with one goal in mind: providing professional-level coverage of semi-professional franchises, athletes, and organizations in Edmonton. We believe Edmonton can stand proudly behind our moniker of the City of Champions. This city has been home to multiple AJHL championships, a two-time WCBL semifinalist, numerous WWE-signed independent wrestlers, and many more success stories.
This is Shane, Hurricane Helms.
Hey guys, this is TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kidd.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Almighty Christopher Daniels.
Stories you can only find on the Win Column Sports Network.
McDonald to Daryl Sutter, Mark Messier to Cale McCarr. Before you're a star, you've got to make it in the AJHL. On Saturday mornings, TSN 1260 takes an in-depth look inside the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Join Tyler Yaremchuk from 9 to 10 a.m. for previews, reviews, and interviews from around the AJ. Inside the AJHL, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. Only on Edmonton's sports leader, TSN 1260.
Hello friends, this is Spencer Love, the host of Conversations with Love, the exclusive one-on-one interview series sweeping the nation or at the very least, the great province of Alberta, Canada. Tune in weekly to Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network, as I host a member of the independent wrestling community here in Alberta, or wherever the hell I feel like interviewing somebody from. You can only find it on Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network, and proudly sponsored by Beercade YEG.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt, but my name is Anthony from the WrestleSode podcast, a member of the Win Column Sports Network. WrestleSode is a podcast that dives into the Albertan wrestling scene by reviewing local indie shows and interviews with all the amazing talents that we have around here. If you want to know what's happening in Albertan wrestling, then look no further than the Win Column Sports Network and the WrestleSode podcast. Thanks for listening, and I hope to hear from you soon.
All right, and we are back with the second half of the, oh my God, Parrish. With the second,
You told him to look at the camera.
fair enough. The Over the Top Rope Live, covering Money in the
Not
Bank.
a death stare, it's a Parrish stare, motherfucker. Woo!
And there goes our PG rating on top of it.
Sorry, go ahead.
But
No, there goes your lack of editing you have to do anymore.
to heck with that. I'm burying him himself. That's fine. Anyway, we got 4 more big matches coming up here, guys. And Parrish, we got 2 heavyweight championship title matches here for the men. Which one do you want to go with first here? I'm giving you the option.
Okay, well, I was a bit of a dink and gave Spencer the non-good opener, so I'll go with... you know what? I know he likes Bray Wyatt, though, but I'm going to take Wyatt and Strowman simply because McIntyre and Rollins is a better match. So I'll take Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman because this is also the match and the feud I predicted when we did WrestleMania. So, in your face.
How's that in my face?
So
We both thought that this was the way it was going to go.
But I said it first, so I win.
all right, Parrish, I got a question for you here. Now, with
So does that mean because I picked up the title first, I won it?
all right,
No, statistics show that we won it.
Parrish, my question for you here. Over the last few weeks, Bray Wyatt hasn't essentially brought out any ideas of The Fiend. He's been trying to do more of recruiting Strowman back into the fold, even as so much as to bring out the Black Sheep mask this Friday on SmackDown. And Strowman just
He also sent it to him as a present.
yeah, Strowman's having nothing to do with it. Do you think the mind games are going to do anything to Strowman in this matchup against Wyatt?
No, simply because I don't think Strowman is smart enough to use it to his advantage. I think that's the honest answer I can give you. I honestly, I'm already bored of Braun Strowman as Universal Champion because he just doesn't know when to look vulnerable. I don't care how big, I don't care how strong you are. Sometimes as a babyface, you gotta look vulnerable in a situation. And he just doesn't do it. That's why I think in spades, you love him, but then in spades, you just don't give a flying you-know-what about him. So I think he's a very polarizing guy because of that. But with that being said, Bray Wyatt, not only does he have a better gimmick, he's better entertaining, and he's a way better worker inside those ropes than Braun Strowman. So I think the fans see through that, so they want to see Braun Strowman, rise up in this thing, and to me, he hasn't. To me, he just hasn't. He's stuck with his same old shtick that is old. for lack of term, it's old now. So I hope it got. Old. Yeah. Well, I mean, like at least Goldberg's old.
To go with.
Yeah, it was.
So, Parrish, with that being said, who are you taking in this match?
I'm taking Braun Strowman simply because I know they won't put the title back on The Fiend, which we all know that they shouldn't have ever taken the title off it to begin with. But I also don't see this feud stopping until Roman Reigns comes. So I think we're going to see Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. So I think one more month we're going to see Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. So Braun Strowman, I think, gets the win here because title change makes no sense at all, especially 1 month after WrestleMania.
Spencer,
who would have thought, Parrish, who would have thought you and I would disagree on something?
That's why I also said I know you love The Fiend, so that's what I...
But you know what? I do see them as one and the same, you know what I mean? I think that, everybody realizes it was a mistake for WWE to take the championship off of The Fiend when they did, and I think that even WWE by this point recognizes that. Now, I think that it was a bit odd to me initially when they first announced that Bray Wyatt would be taking on Braun Strowman rather than doing The Fiend versus Braun Strowman, simply because I think that The Fiend's the obvious choice, you know what I mean? If you really want to have somebody go out and, like you say, play the mind games with someone, then who better than the most psychologically terrifying professional wrestler, arguably, since The Undertaker?
Well, The Fiend doesn't do the mind games. Bray Wyatt does the mind games, and that's the beauty of it.
I think it's wonderful, and I think that the other opportunity they've really, really got here, and what I started thinking back to was the Smackdown right before WrestleMania. And they've done it a couple of times, and I think that something that's really important to make the distinction here is Bray Wyatt and The Fiend seem to be two completely different entities, Whether it's the fact that Bray Wyatt counted the pin for The Fiend at the Firefly Funhouse match, whether it's the fact that John Cena was staring at The Fiend prior to Bray Wyatt coming behind him saying, "Let me in." I even know that there were a couple of times during, I believe it was the Rollins feud, where Bray Wyatt appeared and then The Fiend made an attack or vice versa. So they're very clearly two separate entities, and I think that, I think you guys are bang on in the fact that thus far the mind games haven't worked. So when the mind games aren't working, you really need to bring out the big guns, and especially in a pre-taped format that I believe that this is going to be in, you've got the opportunity to really, really do that. So I think that Bray Wyatt beats Braun Strowman, and I think that Bray Wyatt beats Braun Strowman. However, there is absolutely no doubt to me that The Fiend makes some sort of appearance here. Now, could I see it being like, if The Fiend chooses to attack and hits the mandible claw on Braun Strowman in the middle of the match, then, my prediction changes. Braun Strowman wins by DQ, and then, this does continue into a Fiend-Braun Strowman match, but I don't know. I think it'd be cooler to see it go the other way. I think that, despite the fact that The Fiend has truly been established as sort of like the Superman to Bray Wyatt's Clark Kent, or I guess the Demon Balor to regular Finn Balor. That's sort of the comparison you can make with it.
Pride to Jack.
Well, yeah, but I still think that's actually a perfect comparison, but I still think you do need to make that other persona look good, you know what I mean? You can't ever get Bray Wyatt to the situation where it's, he only wins when he's The Fiend, because once you get to that point, then you really do lose a lot of the character's mystique.
We're already done on that one.
I disagree there purely because of how well the Firefly Funhouse match went. I really,
he's lost as The Fiend already, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, on that aspect, I don't think it's as far as it really goes with keeping both sides a threat. I think that it's easier to keep The Fiend as a threat with a loss than it is to keep Bray Wyatt as a threat with a loss. When you get a guy who's like the literal personification of, albeit a psychotic, but a teddy bear nonetheless, you've got to keep that guy as a credible threat inside the ring, despite, you saw how he was against The Miz. It was a bit of a facade, but he still won. And I think that maybe you see the same thing here where he tries to play that early. Lights go out, Fiend appears, attacks, Bray Wyatt gets the win.
See, and I like your style, but I'm going to actually kind of alter it a little bit. I think we're going to see a second match, but I think Braun Strowman beats Bray Wyatt. But I think just like when we saw against John Cena, we actually saw the Fiend and Bray Wyatt in the same segment around the same time.
What I mean. Yeah.
And then right when that happens, boom, lights go out and we see the Fiend and Strowman. And then the Fiend does something to Strowman to set up Fiend versus Strowman. I think they're going to do this one specifically for that reason. And I think it's going to be on, like, I don't think we're going to waste an appearance from the Fiend without it meaning something. And I think that's going to be something we see. Because this is all going to be, like we said, taped and whatnot. So they're going to, take advantage. This Fiend-Strowman match could be one of those cinematic matches, too.
Oh, I agree, man. Mike, you got your thinking face on. You got your fingers going like you're not Dr. Claw. I suppose that's about the worst reference you could make with a guy with metallic hands, but...
I'll go with it.
All right, you look like Dr. Claw.
Well, you know... So which one do you use, Inspector Gadget? That's all I want to know. Okay. When it comes to this matchup here, like...
I want that hat.
Parrish,
who would have thought this?
All right, you know
who would
what?
have thought this show would have been? Who would have thought this show would have been more on the rails when we did it at a bar?
Funny how that works. In my opinion, here they got to have some of these feuds end, and I think Wyatt right now is just a simple placeholder, because until. I think there's an intentional reason why Vince doesn't want Roman Reigns mentioned right now, and that's simply because more of a pop when he does get mentioned. And that's just that's one of the oldest tropes that you have in wrestling right now. And I honestly think that this will be Strowman beating the Fiend, and then Strowman beating Wyatt, and even if he wants to pull the Fiend out for another match coming up, what do we have another pay-per-view before SummerSlam? Normally we do, but with COVID, I'm not sure.
I think there's going to be one in May. Well, SummerSlam also got moved, right?
This is
SummerSlam. So they haven't made an official announcement on SummerSlam specifically.
They
did say that Boston. Hold on, I got facts.
Go ahead.
I'm spitting facts. So they haven't announced anything specifically on SummerSlam from the WWE. If I remember correctly, Boston has come out and said that they're not going to allow any public gatherings, parades of any sort, like with major numbers, until Labor Day weekend, which falls in, obviously, September. So given that, it appears as though we're en route for another crowdless major pay-per-view that could take place at the Performance Center, something along those lines. Now, I could be wrong on this one, but don't they normally do like Extreme Rules or something along those lines in between time and meantime?
This next pay-per-view time for June is usually
Great balls of fire.
Parrish just threw it out there. It's usually either the Battleground, Great Balls of Fire.
Oh, the biggest show of the year. I can't believe it. Can't believe we finally get the biggest show of the year in July again.
But that's where we will get the Fiend versus Strowman if we have that set up.
See, I think we're on an accelerated timeline as far as that goes. I think that Bray Wyatt, I think that they're fully going to revert to what were their purported plans prior to WrestleMania, prior to all of this Goldberg hogwash going down. And I think they're going to put the championship back on Bray Wyatt. I think that he is going to go on an unbelievable run until, like you guys mentioned, Roman Reigns is ready to come back and take the championship off him.
Fair enough.
I don't think that's a bad thing by any means. I think that you want to establish a guy, like, let's get real here, okay? Roman Reigns hasn't been in the title picture outside of the couple of weeks with Goldberg for nearly 2 years. I think it's about time, and as a performer, love what he's done over the last little bit. So I'll leave it at that. That'll be for the SummerSlam preview. Parrish, I get to move on. Give your last thought.
Fine. No, I was going to say, Braun Strowman beats Bray Wyatt, but loses the title to The Fiend.
Yes. Hopefully it Extreme Rules.
And then we got Fiend versus Big Dog. That's
Great Balls of Fire.
Cool. Excited. Electric Boogaloo. Moving on here, Mike. I've got the pick I already know on that one, and I already know that I'm sort of limited in my pick. The WWE Championship match.
Wait, can I ask one quick question?
No.
Would it be bigger balls of
yes.
fire?
No, it's the second coming
balls.
of the Great Balls of Fire.
Great Balls of Fire too. Okay,
let's get to this.
I'll leave that one to the imagination.
WWE fully loaded.
The WWE Championship, contested by Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. Man, let's get real here. Despite the fact that he's gotten a lot of flack over the last couple of months, years, whatever you'd like to call it, and some deservedly so, obviously, Seth Rollins is quite easily one of the top performers in the world. And to see him going up against a guy like Drew McIntyre, who, let's get real here, is there someone in the world outside of, like, potentially Brock Lesnar who's a more well-rounded professional wrestler than Drew McIntyre? I really don't think there is. And there are people who do everything individually better. I think, there's better big men. I think there's better promos, but I think that Drew McIntyre has all that in a bag of chips about him. So this is a feud that I've been excited for since McIntyre re-signed. Yeah, 100%, because they're the best kind of chip.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm incredibly excited for this one. I've been incredibly excited for this one since Drew McIntyre re-signed with the WWE. This is one of those proverbial dream matches that I think actually lives up to that nomenclature. Now, as far as the feud itself goes, I think that they've done a really good job. I'm not 100% sure, and I think it's just a personal thing for me on the Monday Night Messiah thing. I just ain't clicking for me quite yet, but maybe this is what does it for me, because I think the feud itself has been pretty good to damn good at points. Got Drew McIntyre to be able to say shit on WWE programming, which I'll always pop for a curse word when I don't expect a curse word, if we can get real here. As far as it goes, though...
Quack, quack.
As far as it goes, I don't think that there is very often, if ever, to be honest with you, that the championship changes this soon after somebody's been really established like Drew McIntyre has been. I don't see any possibility of him losing this title. I think that even if you do see, whether it's Murphy, whether it's, I can't remember which one's hurt, but whether it's Akam, even if they choose to use him in this just as a, oh my God, Drew McIntyre's got the odds against him again. I think that Drew overcomes the proverbial odds. I think he beats Seth Rollins. If they move on to another bigger match at Extreme Rules, then so be it. But I think that at the end of the day, Drew McIntyre leaves as your WWE champion. I think that he leaves with a clean victory as well. I think it'd be silly for him not to be getting as many established victories as possible right now.
Parrish, your thoughts?
I also had Drew McIntyre winning. I think it's stupid to have Drew McIntyre losing. He is the face of the company moving forward after this pandemic. He is arguably the most popular guy right now in WWE that the fans want to see you catapult WWE with.
Oh yeah,
I don't think there's anybody else.
Push it to the moon.
And I think too, like I made the Adam Cole reference, and I think Adam Cole, as popular that he is, he just doesn't have the intangibles that Drew McIntyre has right now. And because of that, there's, like you said, Spencer, no one who's more polarizing of an established guy right now than Drew McIntyre. And I think they've hit a home run when they re-signed him back. But I believe that not only does he pick up the win, but I think we're either going to see the beginning of the seeds or maybe it planted completely in Buddy Murphy. I'm calling him Buddy Murphy. That's a hell of a name. Turning on Seth Rollins and setting that match up for SummerSlam. I think we're going to see that at SummerSlam at some point. But I think we're going to start seeing those seeds. Because now that the AOP are not in the equation, it's only Rollins and Murphy. And I don't think they're going to add anybody else. So I think that's going to be where Rollins goes next. I think McIntyre looks strong, gets that win, moves on from Seth Rollins, maybe has a second match with him. Who knows? Because I don't know if there's anybody else. And we're going to see probably McIntyre and Lesnar too at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I could see that. Mike.
All right, before we continue, I do need some clarification on the championship rules here.
Yes.
Based on my prediction on what this match is going to be. Now, if there's a no contest in a certain way, aka disqualification, double count out, etc., does your pick completely go towards the winner, or is it just a wash for you guys?
We're picking who wins, regardless of what the finishes.
Exactly. We are picking who wins. There are some nuances that will come with the WCSN Elite Championship and the awarding of said WCSN Elite Championship. The first championship will be awarded when we are allowed to do this show back at Beercade YEG in full force at the home of Edmonton Professional Wrestling. Right now, for lack of a better way to put it, we're playing by society's rules, and we are all champions right now, Mike. As far as it goes for that right now, though, not
whoa. You just don't want to pay for the postage. That's what it is here.
Well, yeah. So I'd rather be a good sport than pay for postage. I'll take that complaint every time.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, we'll hammer out those details later. So
exactly.
You're almost as frugal as my employer.
Oh, don't get me in trouble with your employer, Parrish.
All right, guys. We got 2 matches to go, and which Money in the Bank we're going to do first? I did a coin toss backstage here before we got going, and we're going to go with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match here. We got Carmella, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Asuka, Dana Brooke, and Lacey Evans.
Well, Mike, to be honest with you, man, you may as well list off the male competitors as well, given the fact that we do know, as Parrish mentioned right off the bat, that these 2 matches would be going on simultaneously. I don't think you can talk about one without the other. It's like talking about the Usos. So, Mike, who are our male Money in the Bank competitors this year?
Well, we got Otis, Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, AJ Styles, and King Corbin. This to me, the men's competitors here, you got at least 4 out of the 6 that have a reasonable chance of winning this. And for the women, you got 2, maybe 3.
This is a weak women's crew. Weak women's part.
So
I think that these are both pretty odd cards, to be honest, or not odd cards, are odd match selections, to be quite honest with you, because like you guys mentioned, like every year I feel like you can make a case for pretty well anyone to win a championship, and I really don't feel like you can this year. So I've sort of gone by more of a process of elimination, because every year it seems like there's a clear favorite, and again, this year just really doesn't. So for the women's, I think that, as far as my heart goes, I'd love to see Asuka as Miss Money in the Bank. I really would. She has been the clear most entertaining part of WWE programming, at least in my opinion, since this whole lockdown pandemic, all of this started. And I think that if you really want to talk about rewarding people for hard work, to be quite honest with you, if we want to tear the curtain back, I think that is someone who would be very, very deserving of the Money in the Bank briefcase. Plus, could you imagine her coming out and dancing with the briefcase and standing and, all of the sort of intricacies that come with being the Money in the Bank briefcase holder? I think that'd be entertaining as all hell. She's someone who is always a threat, though, and I think that for me, you don't want someone who's already a threat to carry the Money in the Bank briefcase. You know what I mean? I think that this is something that you can really use to elevate someone, really use to take them to another level as a performer. And the only person in the Money in the Bank match for me that really makes a lot of sense for that is Shayna Baszler. I think that coming off that loss to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania was pretty big, to be quite honest with you. And I think looking even bigger in retrospect, given that Becky hasn't really been on Raw since WrestleMania. So I think that Shayna taking a loss on that end and then not really having the opportunity to take a big step forward after that, up until sort of, I wouldn't even say she's had a huge opportunity in the promos and all that stuff leading up, you know what I mean? So I think that she's someone that a lot of people right now may not be thinking in front of mind, and I think for that reason is a perfect opportunity to make her Miss Money in the Bank, you know what I mean? I'd love to see Dana Brooke. I just thoroughly enjoy Dana Brooke, and even just sort of knowing the behind-the-scenes stuff and what sort of happened in her life and what she would be like as a person, or at least what I would assume she's like as a person, given the interviews and that sort of stuff. Would love to see her win. I love good people winning things, for lack of a better way to put it. So would love to see it. Don't think it's happening. Nia Jax, I don't think that's going to be the victory there either, although, again, similarly to Asuka, I think that she would be a very, very imposing figure as a Miss Money in the Bank. I just think that that's the perfect reason to not give her the Money in the Bank briefcase. Who are the other two competitors, Mike? Sorry?
Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans, Nia Jax, Carmella.
Yeah. I mentioned Nia Jax. Carmella's already won it. I don't think that unless you are someone like a CM Punk or someone at that level where you're a major star that they just want to plant a flag in the ground with. And it's nothing on Carmella. I think she is quite easily one of the most underrated professional wrestlers in the world, to be quite honest with you. But she's already won it. She's technically already won it twice. So I think third time is definitely not a charm as far as this goes. I'm sorry, who was the last one there? Lacey Evans? I hate to say it, but I think that's a bit of a statement and a bit of an indictment on the run with WWE as a whole. I think that they, again, you know, we're all guys who sort of know what goes on behind the scenes, or at least know a little bit as far as that goes. And knowing the story behind Lacey Evans, presenting her as a heel in NXT, okay, people are feeling their ways out or feeling their ways out and trying to learn what it's like to be a performer. So test every possible water, but it was such an odd choice for me that they chose to make her a heel on the main roster, given the background that she's got and given her history. And I think that it really, really stalled her momentum. I think that coupling her with Baron Corbin in the lead up to Hell in a Cell and not Hell in a Cell, was it Extreme Rules? Extreme Rules. Last year was, and again, nothing on Corbin, just a death blow as far as that goes, and it's been a very tough recovery period, despite the fact that I think she's performed admirably with it. So I'm calling Shayna Baszler on the women's.
And for the men's, you said they were happening at the same time. You got to go 2 predictions.
You told me to shut up, so I'll go with 2 predictions then.
Yeah, and then you talked for an hour.
All right, fine. I'll clear this one out here. Fine. The men's Money in the Bank, I think for me is a little bit more clear-cut, just because I think that everybody involved in it does have a bit of a story coming out of it. Should they not win it, you know what I mean? Daniel Bryan's got a great thing going right now with Drew Gulak. Keep it going. I love it. I don't want to see that end. Rey Mysterio really doesn't need to win a Mr. Money in the Bank briefcase, and I don't think that this really, this in general by the Money in the Bank briefcase, I don't think it's made for a babyface. It's not often you really see a good guy win it, and it's meant to be for a smarmy heel, you know what I mean? I think there's really 2 individuals it comes down into this one, and I think that using my previous logic of I don't think that there's going to be any repeat winners with this one, Baron Corbin's eliminated. I think you see AJ Styles win the Money in the Bank briefcase. Not that he, I guess, lost in the grand scheme of things as far as the Boneyard match. I think anytime you have a great match or a great experience in this sense, I guess, with The Undertaker at WrestleMania, you stand to benefit. But I think that anytime you have someone like AJ Styles lose at WrestleMania, he's got to rebound in a big way. Now, the first time it happened, he lost to Chris Jericho the next night, wins a #1 contenders match, and goes on to have what, in my opinion, were his 2 best matches in WWE with Roman Reigns. Loses to Undertaker at WrestleMania, comes back, was in the gauntlet match for a short time, admittedly, has already had the in-ring return, but got to make a statement. Raw is in need of not just a major heel, a #1 heel right now with Brock Lesnar out, and I think that AJ Styles is primed to be put in that position. So I'm taking him. I'm taking him pretty well, no questions asked.
All right, Mr. Parrish, you're up. Where you want to go first?
And be quick. Yeah, I was going to say be quick, Parrish. We're almost out of time.
Yeah, no, I was already ahead of you on schedule.
Well, good. We're
no,
behind on time.
I agree with you on the. I wonder why. But yeah, no, I'm gonna say one point to your point about Lacey Evans. I thought the worst thing they did for her real character was bringing up her real life issues. I think that was just a shot in the foot when it came to trying to see what she could be as a heel. Was telling everybody with how awesome she is as a human being. With that said, I don't see any logical reason to have Lacey Evans, Nia Jax, or Dana Brooke carry a briefcase. They don't get enough time on TV for me to care about it, let alone the shock factor is still going to be very minimal and even less than Jinder Mahal beating Randy Orton.
Yeah. Well, when you're looking for something like that, you need someone like...
Just shut up, it's my turn.
No, but you need someone like a Zack Ryder just to build off of that, who's, like, beloved by fans, you know what I mean? If you're going to shock him like that, shock him in a good way, or, like you say with Mahal, shock him that shockingly.
Yeah, or Lesnar, a Mania with Taker. Yeah. But I honestly do believe that this match comes between Asuka, Shayna, with Carmella portraying that maybe she's the one. Maybe the other two are going to beat each other out to where Carmella gets it, but I don't think that's going to work. And I do believe Shayna Baszler is more prone to get that big match right away than anybody else in the card because of who she is, because of her background, because that she's new on the main roster, just because of circumstance. Yeah. Especially with her history with Becky Lynch. Asuka, I believe, stands more to just to get more out of a Money in the Bank. You said how entertaining she's been in this whole pandemic thing, whether it was through the commentary thing, whether it was the dancing, just being an overall entertainer. Also, take into account Kairi Sane's contract. We have no idea when it's going to end, but it's going to end somewhat soon. We don't know if she's extended it yet. So if that is the case, I do look to see them saying, Asuka, you're going to be pushed here because we do appreciate what you do. So I'm taking Asuka to win Money in the Bank, and I think that is the perfect choice because I think there's a lot of other stuff where Shayna Baszler doesn't need this Money in the Briefcase or Money in the Bank briefcase to be a main player on Raw. Not saying Asuka does, but I'm saying Shayna Baszler, flat out her presence is already there. Asuka will have this to not only tout her success. She's a Rumble winner. She's a champion. She's longest reigning women's champion in NXT. She is the most dominant NXT champion of all time. She's building a legacy right now, and I think right now this is the best time for her to step outside of maybe perhaps the Kabuki Warriors and be Asuka once again. Yeah. And I think this is the perfect time to do so, and I do believe Asuka, whether or not you have Shayna and Becky too, could be that, don't forget about me, I can cash the money. She could be the Randy Orton to the John Cena and Daniel Bryan without the angle.
Okay. All right.
For the men's, I, just like you, had AJ Styles. And I have AJ Styles for 3 reasons. One is because, again, like you said, everyone rebounds after a loss to Undertaker WrestleMania. Go back and look. With the exception of his early days, the modern time, everyone usually has something big
since the streak started to be a thing, yeah.
Yeah. So because of that, AJ Styles, again, after a big loss, he always comes back. He doesn't have Gallows and Anderson anymore. You need someone that propels him as an individual success on his own. Money in the Bank is a guaranteed way to do that to anyone. He doesn't need it, but he will make the Money in the Bank briefcase mean more when he has it. And because of that, that's my second point. My third point is, and you mentioned this, you don't have Brock Lesnar on the roster now. Drew McIntyre is going to go through Seth Rollins. He's going to have that next competitor that's believable, that people think going into a match, he could be the guy that dethrones Drew McIntyre. AJ Styles fits all of those boxes
single-handedly very easy. And I think right away, it's also a dream match. We've never seen Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles in WWE. That is my third point with AJ Styles, and I think you wouldn't have made a gauntlet match for a second champ. You wouldn't have made it a big deal for AJ Styles' return if there's not a payoff. That is why I'm picking AJ Styles to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match.
I love it, my dude. Now, just one, I want a yes or no answer. Your answer, hold on. If your answer is no, I simply want your answer as to who it would be. If Gallows and Anderson never appear in WWE again, is the Boneyard match the greatest final appearance by an individual or individuals in WWE history?
Yes.
I'm behind you on that, Mike.
I'm going to say no. It's really great, but I don't remember Gallows and Anderson being the stars of it after. I think when you look at maybe CM Punk and his last time with WWE, he was the hottest thing when he left. And if that's his last time in WWE, I think that's a bigger deal.
Personally,
I would say
I have one that I could bring up for you guys, and take away his attitude outside the ring. But
I think we've got the same answer.
But the last appearance of the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, if he wasn't a shit human, it would have been great.
Yeah,
you know, you can't forget that.
Now, I have one question for you guys in regards to the Money in the Bank ladder matches. What is the craziest spot you see between the two matches? And who gets thrown off the building?
I don't think it happens in Money in the Bank.
No.
I think Braun Strowman gets thrown off the building by The Fiend.
Okay. I can see it. Like, that's, I guess, a good question to ask. Are every one of the, like, in-ring matches going to be happening in that ring that they had on the roof? Or is it going to be in, like, a performance center setting?
All the matches are supposed to be at the PC except for the two.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's why nobody's even thinking about a cash-in right now, because it would take a 3-hour flight.
You can't.
So,
yeah, but...
Fair enough. No. Who takes the craziest spot? I would be remiss in saying it wasn't Rey Mysterio. That guy's insane in the best possible way. Do you guys not remember that match? Was it with Samoa Joe earlier this year for the WWE or the United States Championship, where he just got absolutely pummeled? And if it wasn't him, it was someone else in Mysterio. Maybe. Oh no, it was Andrade. There we go. As if they haven't had many great matches together. But just the beatings that Rey Mysterio has taken in ladder matches recently leads me to believe that he is happy to take beatings in ladder matches.
I'm going to say this. If we're going to just go with the ladder matches then, I'm going to say Aleister Black, because it's the most believable way to get him out of the finish without him actually looking like a lesser guy.
That's also
they are
a
super
fair point.
protective of the way Aleister Black is being used, and if it's not something out of this world amazing, I think Aleister Black fits that category perfect. If they're going to go with a guy like AJ Styles to win, then Aleister Black needs to have a very big way of taking them out of the equation.
Very fair, man. Mike.
All right, well, I think that's going to wrap it up here for the show, actually. We were normally going to be moving tables and getting ready for the show. Make sure you check it out, Money in the Bank on the WWE Network. Hopefully you're not paying for it on pay-per-view. Sign up for the network and then quit. That's my personal recommendation if you don't.
You still have time.
By the time this is done, you're probably going to have about 45 minutes, and make sure you give us your thoughts in the comments here, whether it be on Facebook or on YouTube. And before I advertise what's up next, as Spencer likes to do at the end of the show, we want to make sure that everybody's able to plug your stuff. So, and I won't say the word that you use, Spencer. So, Parrish, where are you? What's coming up with you? Where can people get a hold of you and all that great stuff?
Okay, well, I think this is the perfect time to announce a little up-and-coming thing. So if everyone is aware that, obviously, I am back with Monster Pro Wrestling, one of my close friends, Rugged Rich King, and I, we're going to start a podcast on the Win Column Sports Network, and it's going to be called Getting Blitzed. And yes, it is a football podcast, everybody, because there's too much wrestling podcasts out there, and I don't want to take away from anybody's thunder. And, hey, as wrestlers, you know you got to do something that sets yourself aside from everyone else. And you know what? The most active sport right now in this pandemic, I think, is the NFL. So we're choosing football as that topic. Getting blitzed on the Win Column Sports Network. And if you want to contact me, Chris.Parrish on Instagram, Chris Parrish on the Twitter, Chris Parrish on Facebook, Chris Parrish at hotmail.com for all your booking inquiries.
All right, and Mr. Spencer Love, you're an expert at this plugging stuff, so I'll let you go right ahead.
Well, Mike, I have been lucky enough that over the last little bit, I have had plenty of experience plugging my stuff because the Conversations with Love podcast, ladies and gentlemen,
that's what she said.
It is blowing up. We got lots of great guests coming out there. Of course, again on the WCSN, your source for previews, reviews, breaking news, and interviews from the Canadian pro wrestling scene. Coming up this Wednesday, I've got Quinn Hawksley, the latest addition to the Real Canadian Wrestling roster, joining me on the show. This Thursday, Aiden Adams of the Above Average Joes, one half of the PWA Tag Team Champions, joining me on the show. And then this Friday, the Voros Twins, speaking of Tag Team Champions, the ECCW Tag Team Champions will be joining me on the show. But if you want to stay up to date, if you don't want to remember what I just said and you'd like a nice little reminder to come up, make sure you subscribe to the WCSN wherever podcasts are played. If you're feeling saucy, leave us a review or follow us on social media wherever you choose to get your social media fix. It's the Win Column Sports Network. It's some iteration of that everywhere. Myself, I am on Instagram and Twitter at SpennyLove_WCS on the Twitter machine, and at Spenny and the Jets with two S's at the end. Unfortunately, there was one more person out there more creative than me, so they took the original, but you can find me on both those places. I love chatting wrestling. I love just chatting with anybody, so get a hold of me. You are more than welcome to do so. Just don't say anything creepy, or send us a note at the network, Spencer at wincolumnsports.ca, for all of your booking needs. Why you'd book me, I don't know, but it's there if you want to pay me for some wrestling stuff.
All righty. There you go. Well, you guys are talking. I actually have a slide up, thank goodness. So coming up here on the Backbreaker Media set of video channels, if my computer will ever catch up, we got a ton of stuff coming on, including...
Well, it ain't mustard.
Well, actually, there is some monster, but it's coming. We'll get to that.
Oh, those were two terrible puns in a row.
Anyway, we have coming up this Tuesday is the latest edition of the Canadian Wrestling Coalition. Parrish, if I do remember, this is where you lose your CWC championship, but I digress.
Without getting pinned. I never got pinned.
Touche, you got put through a table, but I digress. Well,
it's like not holding a title, but never losing the chance to win it.
Fair enough. You're going to be able to check that out on the YouTube page this Wednesday.
That's exactly what happened.
This Wednesday, you're going to be able to catch up with Anthony from WrestleSode, Paul from the YYC Wrestling Hub, also known as Wrestling Radio now, Spencer and myself, as we do a wrap-up show in regards to the Northern Alberta Invitational, which just happened yesterday. The finals are broadcast on YouTube with a big...
You want to talk about correct predictions?
Okay, we're going to try and settle his ego down between now and Wednesday about those predictions, guys. And then, of course, on Thursday, we have another edition of Name Pending, but I'm calling it CWL Live, with above average Aiden Adams, one half of the PWA Tag Team Champions. And then once again on the weekend, we're going to have another edition of the Canadian Wrestling Coalition. Following that up on Sunday with Monster Pro Wrestling Virtual Madness on the Twitch account. That's twitch.tv/Backbreaker Media. We're simulcasting their broadcast. And then
I am also the self-proclaimed commissioner, too, by the way.
Now, don't forget, you can check out all your information on the WCSN.ca for all your details on all this. But I have a very special announcement. I guess I got to pull. Mr. Parrish wants to come up with a podcast thing. I got something as well. Let me just bring myself up lovely here in the corner here quick. I'd like to announce that we are going to have, since this preview show is going oh so well, on May 23rd, on the Saturday, around 4 o'clock, we're going to have a AEW Double or Nothing. Yes, thanks, Spencer. AEW Double or Nothing preview show as well. We're working on a new title for these shows, so that's why I'm being very generic on what I'm saying here. And, folks, the guests that I have lined up for that show, I'm actually going to host it this time because we got to have a Raw versus SmackDown, WWE versus AEW here. So you're going to be surprised on who we have for special guests, and it's going to be a hell of a fun time. So that's going to be around, I do believe, 4 o'clock, 4:30. Stay tuned to the WCSN.ca for details. But, yeah, now we're going to get some real thorough analysis here, guys.
As far as?
Well, AEW coverage, we're going to have some very thorough guests here that...
Oh, I thought you were going to, drop some knowledge on me right now, and I was like, why would you save that for the end of the show? Drop the knowledge early so that I can, maybe settle myself down and not be so correct in my predictions all the time. But,
all right.
Mike, I always appreciate it.
Hey, so far you're no different from any other people.
On that note, we're going to wrap this up because the pre-show is almost done at this point, as long as we've been going here. So, on behalf of Chris Parrish and Spencer Love, this is...
Oh, don't act like you cared about MVP anyway.
This is
I did.
This is producer Mike the Ref saying, thank you for joining us on the Money in the Bank preview show on Backbreaker Media and the Wwe Championship Sports